How we define good and evil are often byproducts of a larger view of the universe. The concept of evil itself is controversial. What do you mean by evil? When someone says someone else is evil, is that a declaration that said person is imbued in a quantifiable way with some essence of wrongness? Evil is not simply an adjective. In a philosophical and metaphysical sense, evil is a supernatural force rather than a descriptor of someone or something. So not meaning that someone or something that possesses negative attributes would be regarded as evil, but rather evil as a noun, not an adjective. Evil as a substance or a representative. This is the scenario that protagonist Jung-gu faces in The Wailing, a 2016 Korean horror film that presupposes good and evil as definable and assumes moral absolutes. The film follows Jung-gu, a police officer who investigates a series of deaths in his village. He encounters good ghosts and evil ghosts, and must determine which is which in order to save his daughter and his village in general from the wrath of a dark spirit or demon or evil ghost that has been tormenting his home and murdering its citizens. Over the course of the narrative, he mistakes several positive actions from the good ghost as evidence of the evil ghost. Understanding the film from the perspective of a Western audience presents a few challenges because the film assumes the audience is already aware of certain cultural standards in South Korea. So I will try to summarize the events with some regional knowledge to help. The film assumes a rudimentary knowledge of Korean shamanism, also called Muism, as well as a few other terms, but not always in completely interchangeable ways. Within Korean shamanism, the shaman or shaman priest or mu can connect human beings with ghosts by using their body as a medium. A mu can become possessed by an evil ghost, as is the case in The Wailing. Although we see the events of the film through the eyes of Jung-gu and witness his moral agency, the battle is actually between the guardian ghost who inhabits Mumyeong in the physical world and an evil ghost who inhabits a shaman named Il-gwang and a Japanese man. While controlled and possessed by the evil ghost, Il-gwang and the Japanese man make sacrifices, murdering the townspeople. We are given some foreshadowing to this as the Japanese man is seen fishing at the start of the film, and later on a character says that the evil ghost is simply throwing out his fishing line and seeing who bites. Jung-gu's daughter, Hyeojin, is believed to be targeted by the evil ghost, so her family has Il-gwang perform an exorcism called a gut to save her, but this is actually a curse. The guardian ghost puts a crow in a jar near Jung-gu's home to create a protection spell for Hyeojin, but Il-gwang, still mistakenly believed to be on the side of good, destroys the jar. We, the audience, are supposed to be confused about what is good and what is evil as Jung-gu is throughout the film. When Jung-gu suspects the Japanese man, he tries to kill him, but this sin means that the guardian ghost is not able to protect his family anymore. In the end, Jung-gu is manipulated, cannot tell that Mumyeong is the guardian ghost and not the evil ghost, and everyone suffers for it. So in The Wailing, is Jung-gu having trouble determining what is absolutely good and absolutely evil, or is he faced with morally gray situations in a universe without the existence of good and evil? To answer that, we need to talk about Jung-gu as a moral agent. Choosing between right and wrong is called moral agency, and its actors as moral agents, rational beings who can reason and form judgments. At a glance, it might seem like an Enlightenment-era term, but moral agency among philosophers and religious figures has actually existed for thousands of years. It simply was not always the prevailing worldview. In more distant antiquity, there was an idea among varying polytheistic and animistic cultures that there existed a realm of being prior to the gods and above them, upon which they depend. Something which modern philosopher Yehezkiel Kaufman called the meta-divine realm, a catch-all phrase he applied to various pagan, polytheistic, animistic, and magic-based beliefs. The deity or the deities emerge from there and are therefore subject to its laws. The meta-divine realm may be water, it may be darkness, it may be spirit. In ancient Greece, it was fate. Human beings were believed to be subject to the decrees of fate just the same as the gods were subject to fate. Ancient philosophy and views of the universe limited the gods. Evil was a metaphysical reality, the same as good, the same as air or water. It was simply built into the structure of the universe. That's just the way the universe was made. The primordial material from the meta-divine realm spawned all that was good and bad. The gods were not interested in human salvation from the capricious forces of the world because they were trying to save themselves. The good gods were attacked by the evil gods. The powers and decrees of the meta-divine realm were harming them as much as anyone else. They couldn't be worried about humans. They were too busy being worried about themselves. The universe was believed to be amoral. Not immoral, which is different and negative, but amoral, meaning morally neutral. The monotheistic view espoused by certain Christian characters in the film is comparatively a radically new idea of a god who is himself the source of all being and not subject to some meta-divine realm because he did not emerge from there and is therefore free of all limitations and can be seen as a god whose will is absolute and sovereign. Believers in a moral universe propose that if God created the universe and God is the progenitor of morality, then the universe, too, is moral. In this view, the universe is concerned with human salvation and encourages moral agency within humans. I've discussed secular morality in a morally neutral universe in other episodes, but as this film concerns itself heavily with moral agency related to spirituality, this is the focus today. So, from a spiritual or supernatural perspective, the moral universe is inherently good or ordered by a higher power. An amoral universe is morally neutral or unordered, but both contain absolute good and evil from their differing sources. Jung-gu is our moral agent in the film. His moral decisions affect the flow of the story and the outcome. As a police officer, he is concerned with secular justice, but he is pulled in different directions, particularly those outside of the law, to make moral conclusions about good and evil. In the Wailing, good and evil exist. They are quantifiable and explainable. Jung-gu's inability to make the appropriate decisions about good and evil is not commentary on the non-existence of good and evil. The film asserts such things exist. It is also not commentary on moral ambiguity, the idea that everything is a shade of gray. No, in the Wailing, morality is cleanly divided between good and evil, but, the film suggests, even though such things are real and identifiable, they are not always easy for human beings to differentiate. They are absolute, but challenging to see clearly. In South Korea, Christianity is actually very popular. Roughly 30% of the country adheres to some form of Catholic or Protestant denomination of Christianity. In the village in the Wailing, Christianity and Korean shamanism exist side by side. Magic, in antiquity, was seen as tapping into the primordial essence of the universe, Kaufman's meta-divine realm. The reason magic is frowned upon by those who believe in a moral universe created by God and not a meta-divine realm is because magic is seen as tapping into something that should not exist. Conducting magic, therefore, is blasphemy to some, because it declares that something exists outside of the will of God and implies the existence of a meta-divine realm. And if said realm exists, then God came from it rather than the conception that he has always existed. Magic is seen as sin or rebellion against God because, if it exists, it is predicated on the notion of God having limited power. In this film, the concept of sin is not exactly what Western audiences think about when they think about the word sin. Korean shamanism is shown as a cultural norm. Part of this indigenous religious practice is the reverence of ancestors, the family unit being spiritually tied together. So, in the film, when Jung-gu commits a sin, and his daughter suffers for it because the guardian ghost no longer has the power to help her, one might think that is unfair to the daughter, but it actually ties itself into Korean shamanism. The Wailing shows a kind of amalgam of the Christian concept of morality and the shamanistic conception, which is not surprising. Many Christian churches in Korea make use of practices rooted in shamanism. The movie begins with a biblical quote that connects the Gospel of Luke, verses about not knowing whether the risen Christ is living or dead, with the shamanistic events of the film. The guardian ghost is introduced to us by throwing stones, a biblical reference to the fact that she is without sin. The priest in training refers to the Japanese man as the devil, even though the possession is of magical origin, something that should not exist within a moral universe worldview with no conception of a meta-divine realm. Going back to moral agency, I find that while the film is thematically showing us how difficult it is to recognize good from evil, Jung-gu eventually fails when he does not base his decisions completely on what he believes is morally right. And this is not just in reference to his aforementioned sin. At the end of the film, Jung-gu, having seen what his corrupted daughter has done due to the evil ghost, says that he will take care of everything. He is a police officer. He will make sure that everything is taken care of and that she is protected. In other words, Jung-gu, having realized that he cannot tell the difference between good and evil, concludes that it is not worth recognizing. He will base his decision on self-interest and the interest of what is left of his family, his daughter. In the film, Jung-gu is a moral agent like anyone else, but he is not some powerful hero. He is fearful, even comically so, and makes a lot of bad decisions. Good and evil are too difficult for him to grasp, and he chooses to give up. Hi everyone, if you like what I do, consider clicking on the orange Patreon link below. That's how this show happens. It's also a way for you to request an episode, so check it out.